watching the screen at the moment and behind you. So no, you don't have to. Good evening. This is the Athens City Shade Tree Commission meeting for August 19th, 2021. We have a couple of items under Title 33. This is planting of trees in city areas, public land. And Roxanne Albruni is going to describe, I think, a plan for the West State Street ball fields. So take it away, Roxanne.
Okay, so one of our missions this year was to plant more trees. We had a tree bank with Menards, and so we are able to obtain trees, and on Monday, City Council approved the ordinance for the budget for the planting of the trees. So the first slide that we're looking at here are the ball fields as you move down West Union.
Is that State Street?
West State Street.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Down State Street, not Union, obviously. And this is the way that it is now. What's going to happen is, here are the fields again. You're going to see that we're going to have new parking that's proposed. And so it's going to be appended here. It's going to be over here. And I confirmed with the city today that the parking lots will be constructed by the end of September.
Is that the construction that's going to happen?
That's the construction that's going to happen down at
There was some talk about putting a
West
street
State.
across from Stimson, or from
Union.
Union.
This is the construction that they're doing in September. This is for future.
And that is for
the
parking lots.
Yeah. And again.
Okay. Okay, Nancy? Okay. So I went out there and I walked the fields with the city, and a decision was made to look at the large existing trees and the medium trees, and then to make a proposal for new tree plantings. So the new tree plantings are the rectangles as compared to the ovals. Basically, the idea is to plant the trees along the existing parking. There are two reasons. One, they want to create shade, but two, they also want to create a barrier. I guess they've been having problems with cars driving onto the grass fields. I think another thing that we discussed is, as soon as you put in shade trees here, people are likely going to sit under them and watch the game. So I think that that'll be a great addition. One of the things I did ask the city was whether or not they could incorporate tree islands into the parking plans, and they said at this time it was late, but even so, they really wanted to have the trees along the parking rather than within the parking to optimize the barrier. We could argue the aesthetics and the intention, but at this point the city has said that they are not able to revise the plans.
Can you tell from these little squares whether that is the
So the squares here.
Let me finish.
Oh.
Is that the required space, or is that more than enough?
It's 15 feet plus.
So it's not 30 feet.
No.
Which is what's required for large trees.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's 20 feet plus. So it's between 20 and 30. The way that it's shown here, Nancy, is that we have enough space to plant them at 30 if we want to.
I was just thinking that would give us more trees to put in the center of the parking.
But if we just take the measurement of 180 feet, you've got 6 trees in there. So there's only 5 spaces. So that means you've got more than 30 feet between the ones running along the edge of that long parking lot.
Okay.
And so the others have got to be about 30 feet apart.
They're about 30. When we actually marked it out with the city, I think that they wanted to scunch them up a little bit.
That's
I
fine.
said, no more.
I just thought maybe there might be some more trees, but it looked like there were plenty of trees. That maybe there would be enough that you could put some of them in.
Right now, we only have funding for 30 trees. That's all the funding that we have to plant.
No, I mean...
So what I'm saying, Nancy, you're saying that we can plant more trees.
No, I'm saying that there are more trees there, more space there. There's more trees in that small space than is required. In other words,
The city doesn't impose a requirement on
Yeah,
itself.
there is no requirement. It's just, we were told we had a budget to plant 30 trees. And so I went last time and presented a plan for 26 trees, new trees, knowing that they have about 4 trees that they need to replace. So the answer is we could plant more trees. There's space for it. We just don't have the budget this year to plant them.
That isn't what the question was anyway. That's okay.
No, clarify, please. I don't think David or I
What is your
understood.
question?
We wanted to be able to put some trees in the parking space.
And they've said no, we
Yes,
can't.
and they said no.
They said
Because
it's
there are
too
no
late.
trees.
No, because they do not want trees in the parking lot. The city does not want trees in the parking lot.
Because
It's their parking lot and they're saying no.
But because they wanted a barrier.
Well, they can have the barrier, but and we could in principle plant more trees, but they're saying no to trees in the parking lot.
Yeah, they're saying, Nancy, I asked, they are not willing to revise their plan at this time, considering they will be starting construction soon. Now, I think that we have talked about working more closely with Planning Council, so that way we are notified of these plans.
This would not come in there
Sooner?
at all. This is
Oh, it
purely
doesn't even-
the
that's-
engineering department of the city that makes these decisions, and they make a decision consciously, as far as I can tell, to never consult us at an appropriate time.
Okay,
And I'm
well,
stating that for the record, because this happens time and time again, that we are not consulted at an appropriate time. You can look at the swimming pool, you can look at Richland Avenue, you can look at West Union Street, you can look at East State Street. Every major project in this city, they do not consult us at an appropriate time.
okay, and perhaps we need to go back to code and revise code so that we are better informed, because I think that it is a lost opportunity not to have the tree islands.
I agree.
Right.
So-
And also, it does not serve as a good model
That's right.
for businesses,
Exactly.
because the businesses say, well, the city didn't do it, so.
I actually made that statement to the
Oh, good.
mayor, and so it is on record
Good.
in an email. And so this is the other side where we have existing trees and we will not be planting them. And another thing is that we have another plot of land, which is on Carroll, which is in between 2 housing units. It was given to the city by the construction company as part of the deal. And right now we have talked about placing 4 medium trees. Now, for the West State Street site, we need to talk about what trees we want to plant there. And I sent an email to everybody about what were some of the ideas that came up. And I think I'm going to leave the PowerPoint in a minute and I'll come over there and we can have that discussion. And then for this site, in addition to the trees, we talked about having some smaller shrubs or trees around it to create islands. And I talked to the city, and if we truly create islands that are maintained with mulch, they are okay with that. Otherwise, their preference for mowing is just to have large trees instead.
Roxanne,
Yes,
have you guys discussed deer?
yes,
Okay.
yes, we did. And both areas are heavily trafficked or infested, whichever word you prefer, by deer. And so we can talk about that. I'm going to go back to my seat.
Do we have money in the budget for fencing for?
The planting does include some wire wrapping around the trees.
Great.
One question I had about the islands idea.
Yes.
You mentioned mulch as one possibility. What about stone?
I think that stone might be a great opportunity. We'd have to ask the city what they have. I know that they can come by mulch, but they might have rubble too. Or the other thing is that we can go back and request more money for
Because
next year.
We don't want grass coming up against the trees because of
No.
all sorts of issues that the grass creates itself and the mowers
Yeah.
and the strimmers create.
I have to give a great shout out to Kevin Skurlock, who works for the city. He is really cognizant of those issues, and he's been really knowledgeable and just very forthright. So I think that we found a really good partner in working with him. Okay, so for the trees, if we're going to have that discussion,
Well, can you base it on the summary of a summary discussion that we had last time?
yeah.
I
So
don't
this
want to spend as long this time on trees. I think we came up with a list of 7 to 9
Right.
options. Can you recite those off and let us come up with some sort of prioritized list?
Okay, so I actually don't have a copy. It looks like maybe it left, but that's okay. So
Which one do you want?
basically, what we said is that we want to choose at least 3 varieties of trees, and that we picked oak, and we also picked tulip tree. We also
It's on
mentioned.
the minutes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, David, why don't you read them out then, because you're seeing them
Okay,
faster than I am.
we discussed species, 3 different oaks,
Yep.
sycamore, tulip poplar, catalpa, and lindens. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7.
Yep, and right now, I'm going to suggest that we might remove one of them, the tulip poplar, just because it was brought to our attention that with climate change, there's a likelihood that they will not do as well in our area.
Well, that's what I was going to suggest, that we ask Jim
And-
what his findings are.
Well, I made a summary sheet from the U.S. Forest Service, and I didn't bring it with me. So I
Yeah.
remember I emailed you saying this one,
Yeah, that was the
Didn't
only
bring
one that you said, that we really should consider
Well,
not
we're
using.
looking for 3.
Yep,
We'll put tulip poplar as 7 now. So we've got three different sorts of oaks, and clearly there's concern about oak wilt death. And does the oak wilt death affect all oaks or just particular?
Yeah, both groups, yeah.
Okay. So there is that one to consider. Sycamore is certainly
My
a
favorite tree.
good one there. I like catalpas and I like lindens. One thing we must bear in mind is that under Title 37, we are now required for city lands to have 75% native species, I think. I think that's what so if we've got
60% for native trees,
Is it?
isn't it? Or, oh, I'm sorry, that's landscapes, you're right,
Yeah.
city is 75%.
Yeah. And so that means that 75% of 30, quickly in my head, it is...
Who's not, just eliminate all
Yes.
the
23.
eliminate the non-natives, and what do we have?
Well,
You know,
we,
Linden, it's hard to.
No, we
find.
need 23 native species. That means that if we need to have 4 species in here now. That was where I was going with that, because you can't get 23 out of, unless you have 2 of them that contribute 23, and then the other 7 are. Now we just need to bear that in mind, because in fact we can come up with certainly 3 native oaks.
Right.
The sycamore can be a native, because we don't have to go with the London plane tree.
Right.
Then the catalpa and the linden.
Yeah,
Is it the little leaf linden is the native? No, the macrophylla.
Yeah. it's
Well, I
really
tell you
hard
what,
to find them.
Yeah.
maybe, David, to save time, can we just say that Shade Tree Commission approves the plan, that we will have at least 3 species, and I would be happy to work with Ann and whoever else wants to, and we'll just come up with the list
That's
of
fine.
natives, and then we'll pass it over to Dave to give,
okay,
yeah.
right.
Okay. Is
So
everyone?
we're going to scratch tulip poplar.
Uh-huh.
I would probably eliminate catalpa just because of their droppings. The lindens are wonderful because of the fragrance, and they're very good for pollinators, and so I mean that's for my 2. And really, I don't know. I noticed it on the plan. They were on the other one that they were the London plane tree, and we really should have it. There's no reason.
I said the sycamore would be the American one.
The other memorial hospital.
Can we just
their
concentrate
list.
on one plant at a time?
Okay, all right. Okay, all right.
Okay, I've got my marching orders on
Does
this.
everyone agree that Roxanne will proceed that way
Yeah,
for us?
right, that sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you, Ross.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yep, that's great.
Okay. I misspoke when I said there were two issues under Title 33 that I was aware of. There was just this one. Although Carroll Road, do you want to?
I was going to ask if you wanted to go back to Carroll Road just quick. I think we just need a quick vote. The city, I think, has a preference for just planting trees without underplantings because they don't want to maintain the islands. Are people okay with that, knowing that we could always underplant later, or is everybody insistent that they want to underplant now?
I'm fine with them, as long as we can have mulch or some of the equipment.
Underplantings,
Right.
and that I can recall.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
most of
yeah,
them are
it's
just
fine.
plain laid
Okay.
out with
Yeah.
trees.
Yeah. And again, 3 out of the 4 are going to have to be native.
Yeah.
Or four native if you want. We can put a catalpa there.
Yes, yes.
Roxanne, do like neighborhood kids play in that park?
No, not currently.
Yeah, you see, the background to that is that in the subdevelopment part of the code, there is a requirement that they dedicate a certain amount of land to public space. So it is supposed to be a park on which children can play and so on and so forth.
But it's not currently being used for that, and honestly, when I talk to the neighbors adjoining the property, they really don't want to see it developed as a park because they don't want everybody to be using it in that way. So I think the idea of having native trees and sort of blending back into the woods is probably our best bet.
Okay. Okay. So again, we'll let Roxanne move along with that one as well. The next item on the agenda is Title 37. In the absence of anyone from Marietta Memorial Hospital, unless you're here to represent them.
Yeah, that might be me. Yes.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Can you come to the podium and introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Sam Hopkins. I work for Planet Studios. I worked on this project under my colleague Kyle, who could not be here, but I assisted him with the study and the tree selection and the code research, so if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
Thank you.
The first question I've got is the survey that you did not appear to cover the entire property.
Of course, yeah.
And we're going to have some explanation as to why that's acceptable.
So the company that contracted us, I think, didn't want to survey the entire site, so we surveyed an acre and then saw that the conditions were mostly the same throughout the entire site and extrapolated that.
What does the code say?
Well, what we have to do in Title 37 is make sure that there's a certain number of trees per impervious square footage and pervious square footage. So you take the whole site and figure out how many trees you need for the pervious property. The interesting piece here is there is a big property and they're only developing a small portion of this. So there'll be an enormous amount of trees that are going to be required by the code for that pervious area. And we're sure some of those already exist there. And then the other piece would be for the development for the impervious areas. There's another tree requirement, number of trees that are required for that as well.
But doesn't the code now require them to have a survey of the entire site?
I don't recall that it says they require a survey, but they are required to provide a certain number of trees based on the whole site.
Yeah, but Dave, to be more specific, the reason why I believe that they have to survey the entire site, or at least log the number of trees, is that if they need to remove trees in order to come into the site, those trees need to be replaced. And right now, we have a survey that you've done, which is fantastic, and all the trees are going to stay, which is wonderful. We're really happy about that. And we can figure out the site that you're building on, both the impervious as well as the impermeable as well as the permeable. But what we don't know is what trees in the frontage and on the sides are going to be removed in order to get, equipment in, et cetera. And any tree that is removed has to be replaced in addition to the requirement for the impermeable and permeable space. That's I think it's my concern.
Okay.
Well, there's another place too. In reading it, there was some plan to remove certain parts of the soil that was not stable enough to hold this construction. So in doing that, what impact is that going to have on the trees? And
I believe, and I could be wrong, Nancy, I think that they considered that as part of the work site, that it's going to be cleared and contoured, so it would work into the equation of how many trees are required. So the way that I read it is that within that site that they propose, that small area, everything is being cleared. There are no trees.
getting in and out.
Or do you mean trees that would then be adjacent to that contoured site? I'm trying to understand.
What impact is that whole process going to have on the trees that are there?
Onto the adjoining trees?
Right,
Okay,
exactly.
not to the trees on the property. That's what I was trying to understand.
Because those trees are going to be gone,
Yeah,
so we don't
yeah.
have to worry about them. But-
Did you understand
I
the
believe so,
question?
because you were talking about the trees that are adjacent to the area that's being developed.
When you move all that soil out of there, all of that fill that you're going to have to take out, are you going to be killing off some of the trees?
I would have to revisit the engineering documents, but I believe it's actually fill is going back in because they're building up that berm to make that site level enough to put a building on. So I don't believe too much soil is being taken out, actually.
Yeah. But then the
But
question is,
as far as, yeah.
if they take out the soil and then they're going to put it back in, where are they going to store it? Because if you store it in an area where there are trees, I mean, even if it's a distance from trees, the roots are reaching out.
Of course.
And then that, can compact the soil and damage the trees.
As far as I know, all of the construction will be happening on that sort of cleared area where it's mostly sort of like meadow. It's kind of around, there's actually a bulldozer on that site that has been sitting there derelict for a number of years, and that's where I imagine a lot of that construction equipment and backfill will go.
I think
But I can't speak to that, yeah.
my suggestion is going to be that you have two requirements now, we're basically saying is, what trees exist that you're just going to have to remove that aren't within that survey, and any trees that are, die or are removed, you're responsible for replacing. Then you have the impermeable and permeable space calculation. But my suggestion is that you build in extra trees into your numbers, because you're going to potentially lose, a tree, somebody's going to run one over, or as Nancy's concerned, you're just going to lose some health in some trees. So it's always better just to pad the numbers a little bit.
Yeah, give yourself some wiggle room.
The other thing that I had a concern with is that some of the trees, while lovely, are considered small trees, according to the city. So the city has a list.
Yes.
And so you just need to make sure that you use medium and you use large trees. Large trees count as one, medium count as half. And we noticed that on your plans that you had a few trees that we would consider small, so they wouldn't count. So just make sure that the numbers work. And then I was just going to say that you have a tree, a green vase, sawleaf Zakova, which is actually not on our approved list. And I do not know
It's not, well, yeah.
if we're allowed to
Yeah,
consider it or not.
That list is not exclusive. But we now have this further burden on us that we've got to make sure that they're planting I'm looking for my note now.
75% native.
No, 60% of the native species are required for trees.
Yes.
That was a consideration, and so I believe that 60% requirement is met. We've planted a lot of honey locust, I think red oaks, and I think American basswoods, but I'll have to recheck that.
Yeah, and
think
because
that
the London sycamore, of course, is not a native.
Of course, yeah, it's a
As
European.
one might guess from the name.
Yeah, it's not London,
pine
Ohio.
tree.
Now,
I think the tree, can I just say, I think it was American beech that you had
Oh,
listed.
yes, that's, yeah.
And that is another tree that's not supposed to do well with climate change, so I don't know if you want to think about that. I mean,
good point, Jim.
Yeah. And what about the issue, speaking of that, what about the issue, I mean, that's in an area with a very high water table. So choosing trees that can, like sycamore is great in an area that has a lot of water, but just want to make sure we choose species that can handle having their feet in water.
River birch? What are some others?
River birch.
The interesting thing is the trees that like water oftentimes do really well in compacted, disturbed sites, because,
Yep.
the lack of oxygen is
True, yeah.
uniform, whether it's soil suffocating them or water.
They're used to that.
Yes,
sort of thing.
so, yeah, river birch, sycamore is great.
you had a lot in your survey, red maple showed up a lot. And I'm not a big red maple fan, but you can think about the trees that are there now.
Okay.
They're obviously doing well.
A lot of poplars as well.
Just out of curiosity, the tree that you selected, that is unusual for us and isn't on our list.
Of course.
Is there a reason why that one was chosen?
Are you referring to the Zelkova?
Yeah.
Yes, that it just does. It's a very good street tree. It's pretty bulletproof to like pollution. It grows in a really nice pyramidal
Yeah.
habit, so
Beautiful shape.
it's a very attractive one that is used in a lot of street
And it's going to
scapes.
thrive on neglect, so
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't see the plan, but I'm a fan of those in those urban areas where they're going to, the
Salt.
reflective heat and the
Yeah.
salt and the concrete.
So I think what you're hearing from us is, the Sakova is a good idea. Think about things that can, have water.
Of course.
And then also maybe consider, climate change if that's a concern long-term. When we,
I'm afraid that
Hackberry and
most
Kentucky
modern
poppy
developments don't last long
They are
enough to
really
worry about climate change.
I think they're the spirit.
Very resilient. Okay, gotcha.
Better
It's
than
very
London.
small.
Easier to
Very
get.
small tree.
when we did the calculation of the 3.7 acres, and then we divided by the number of trees that are needed for impermeable and permeable, we came up with a range of 91 to 106 trees needed.
Okay.
And that wasn't the number that you had provided. So I think that what we're going to require in the revised plans is the calculation of the impermeable and the permeable space, and then the number of trees, taking into account if they're large or medium, and then also padding your numbers. I'll add one more thing.
Of course.
Deer.
Yes.
We have them, the biggest one. I would suggest that whatever you do, you make sure that you get trees that, will deal with the deer, and also put some stuff around it so that way they don't
But
joust
there
with
was
them.
the survey part, there were quite a few trees surveyed,
Yes,
in addition to the ones that they were put on their plant list, so.
but the ones that are staying don't count against their trees that they need to put on their disturbed area, impermeable and permeable. If they remove those trees, then they would have to replace those as well. And they're not, so we're not going to worry about that. So they just have to worry about the space where they're constructing, and also any trees on the periphery that they might have to remove will have to be replaced.
The simplest calculation you can do is you take the total area of the site and you divide by 1767. That basically tells you how many trees you're going to need for the entire site. The next thing you need to do is look at the impermeable area and divide by, I think it's 1526.
That's correct.
And
27.
that,
27.
And that will tell you how many trees have got to be close to or within the area that you've defined as impermeable.
That's it.
Right? And you can then subtract those trees away from the first number. Right? And at that point, you've got it.
Yeah.
Of course.
You've got the total number of trees. Now, what we can do in areas that have existing trees, if there's a lot of tree coverage, we simply look at those areas and we do a calculation and say, how many trees is that area worth? And we can do that one. It's a fairly straightforward calculation to do. And that, in some of these larger developments, can help with the accounting for how many trees you're ultimately going to have to plant at the end of the day. The other piece, as I said right at the beginning, I'm not happy with the way that the survey was done. Because the survey, as far as I'm aware, it says in the code that it should be a survey of the entire site, not just part of the site. So that piece, I think, we need to have completed. Then there's the other concerns that Roxanne was raising as well. So all these things add together, and I think what we're going to have is a resubmittal for our next meeting. Now, our next meeting is due to be at, I'm trying to find our next meeting, September the 9th. If you can't make that and there's an urgency to do something, we can hold a special meeting. As long as I've got, I'd like to have the plans in the hands of my fellow commissioners for a week beforehand. We have to give a day's notice, basically, to hold a public meeting.
Understood.
But I like to have I'd like to get the plans. So if you can go away, think about what revisions we've asked for. If you've got questions for me, contact me directly.
Of course, yeah.
And we'll try and come up with a resolution that will help you get this development moving forward.
That was going to be my suggestion. We've thrown a lot at you, and we're here basically as the cities, but also your advocate to make sure, that you understand the requirements. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us by email. We're happy to clarify and to work with you.
Of course.
Yeah. So do you have any immediate questions at the moment?
The part about the replacement of disturbed trees, I was having trouble finding that in the city's code. Is there a certain ratio?
It's just a consequence. If you go, if in your survey you found 100 trees, and then as part of your development you take out those 100 trees,
of course,
those 100 trees don't exist anymore. You've got to replace them. So that's all the thing that we were trying to say.
I see.
Yep.
So just because you've got the trees there now, unless they're there at the end, they don't count.
Right, and the reason why is because you've declared a certain site for construction, but if trees die, we consider that site as being part of the construction.
Of course.
And so that's why.
And then lastly, with the request for like an entire site survey, and you said there's calculations on how to do that, because I believe it might be unfeasible to do a survey of the entire site and count every single tree.
I think you've got
with this.
I thought you had at least 75% of the site done already.
Okay. Clarification. We're not talking about all the acreage.
Yes, we are.
We're talking about the acreage that's going to be impacted by the construction, yes?
No.
Or do you mean...
Title 37 says a survey's got to be done over the entire site.
Okay, so... Wow. Because how many acres did they purchase, David? It's huge.
Yeah, it's
quite a lot.
Yeah, quite a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like 10
sorry,
times.
But
I just wanted to clarify.
That's why I asked David Riggs the explicit question. I think in the new version of the code,
Here it
it is required that they do a survey over the entire area.
Yeah, because the total acreage is 25.34 acres, and the area that they're constructing on is 3.7. And so we have to clarify, David, whether or not it has to be the full 25.34 where they need a survey, or is it the 3.7 acres where they're constructing in any other surrounding area that might be affected?
I'm looking at the code right now, and I don't see anywhere that it says that they have to do a tree survey of the entire site. I might be missing something.
What does it say about doing a survey?
It actually says that they have to have a list of what the proposed trees are for the development, and that we also talk about the pervious and impervious and the number of trees.
No, I'm
required.
talking about the latest version that the city passed, which is now the active code.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm looking at here. It was Ordinance 04621.
I think it's here.
What's the address of this site?
Let me see. I believe. Actually, I think it's not developed. I don't think it necessarily has an address that
I could
find.
do some research and follow up with the committee. Give you what I can find from the code. I can't find anything in there right now, and I'm looking at what I think is the most recent amended ordinance for Title 37.
When was it passed?
May.
It was adopted by council July, and it became effective 30 days or the.
So do you
30
think
days
it would
after.
be on the web, were you looking on the website?
Yes, but it doesn't always go on the website
Right,
right
that's what I
away.
was thinking.
Yes.
It wasn't on the
Sometimes
website a
sometimes
week
it takes
ago.
quite a while, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So let me do that. Let me research that, and I'll get back with the committee.
Okay. And I think that's it.
Excellent.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for stepping in.
Of course, yeah.
Okay. The next piece is the Pollinator garden application, and you should have two copies of the application form. One that Roxanne assembled and one that I assembled, and I'm not quite sure how different they really are.
I don't think that they're terribly different. I think what is different, one, David rightly pointed out that even though code talks about 3 seasons, it might be really nice to have them list flowers, pollinator-friendly species for all 4 seasons. So I think that that was a nice add. In the version that I have, what I did was I took the text from code and put it on the application. And so that way they could see the code. And the other thing that I did was, it says that you have to agree to reduce all pesticide use on the property. And it's actually pesticide and herbicide. And I said, okay, then tell us what your current use is. You know, I sort of would like to know that, and then just have a little checkbox that says, yes, I certify, because I don't think anybody's actually going to go and check. I could be wrong. And then we have the list of the pollinators by season. I think that's something that's common to both of them. And then the second page is identical. So I think that I would just suggest adding code language, and then also getting them to list the pesticide, herbicide, and also making them check a box that they're going to do it. That way we can say, you signed it, you didn't do it. So, and the other thing that really I had a laugh about is it said that in the original it said, make a sketch of your garden and show all pollinators, and I was like, no one's doing that. So I think we need to allow them to submit photos.
Does that go through code then?
Yeah, we received that, and that'll get reviewed by the committee, yeah.
Yeah,
So you have to
But
enforce
wait a minute,
that.
if you're making an application,
We
One
haven't
sec, let's
decided.
just wait for
Yeah,
them.
that's a hard one. That's,
Do you think we should put anything in here about
do you
host plants?
anticipate a lot of people?
Well, we can't put anything in that's not in the code.
And there's nothing in the code about host. It just says pollinator friendly.
But I met with Chris and Nisley, and she said that we can make suggested changes.
Correct.
Well, we can suggest changes, but we can't make changes. Only the city council can make the changes.
So I think that what we're trying to do, Nancy, is to get this application to align with current code,
Yeah.
but concurrently to work on the code, because you know how I feel about those clover. And, you know, and the one plant that'll just hit all seasons.
Yeah,
So
let's leave that one alone. What we've got here are two documents. I wrote one of them, Roxanne wrote the other. I think the significant difference is I had a listing that said boldly that they agreed to these four things. I don't have any problems in doing it Roxanne's way with that. If we're all agreeable, I'd like to get Roxanne's form into David Riggs' hands so he can start using it as the form, and if we have to change it, we'll change it later.
Well, I think they should be combined. I think this
No,
should
we
be.
can, the code office can make changes easily to that. We'd like to get it up on the website as well, so they can do these online, or come in to fill them out either way.
okay, so
Well, Nancy has a suggestion.
Yes.
She's suggesting putting my 4 bullet points in.
Under,
it's already in the code.
yes, but
Now, if my opinion, and it's just my opinion, is that you don't restate code. You put code. Because this is an interpretation of code.
Oh, you're saying what I've got is an
Yes.
interpretation? Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
fine, yeah. I'm happy. I just, Nancy raised the issue that she liked the fact there was bullet points there, which I'd done. But you're saying that
Well,
because
if Roxanne doesn't like it, then we shouldn't.
No. It's the argument she's got is a valid one, that if we're rewriting what's in the code and we think it's the same, it's a
But so is
dangerous step.
everything else. That's what I just said.
yeah.
Nothing can be added because it has to be in the code. This is all from the code.
Yes, it is.
It's all
But
spelled out again.
In hearing what Nancy is saying, I think, is she likes the idea that it's bulleted out, it's easier to read. And if that's true, you can do that with the code. You can just say 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the
Okay.
same language, it's
All right.
just
All right.
showing bullets, and I like that idea.
yeah. So in other words, sort of, instead of
So
having it be one
do we want to
paragraph,
change
break
your
it out.
version then?
I would be happy to, and
So are you saying instead of having it be one paragraph, you would have colon and then have one?
Bullets, I like-
and
yeah.
then- And then a new line 2,
yeah, Nancy's
That's a good
suggestion
idea.
of making
Because
bullets.
I felt it was clearer trying to put it out in that form, and I think Nancy's agreeing with that piece of it. But I do understand the issue
Yeah.
that you don't want to go
Interpreting,
trying to rewrite the code
Right,
if the
right.
code already says what you want it to say.
I would also like to suggest, I really like David's addition of having winter, which I didn't have on my original form.
I would
Is
like that.
everybody okay with that?
I'd like to include winter because
That's a good way to get the trees in there.
Well, there's a whole bunch
right.
of stuff that you have in winter that is a host, and
Yeah.
it does all sorts of wonderful things.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I didn't realize about witch hazel, you know, that these pollinators show up and you think, well, wait a minute, it's too cold, but, you know, somehow they're there, so.
Okay.
So what's the pledge? They come to your office and put their hand on the field guide and... I didn't see the pledge. I was looking for
Well,
it
the
on
other
the
part
web.
of what we are required to do under these new ordinances are these lists.
Yes.
And our friend, expert in list making, has done a great job of putting some lists together. that
I
think
hope
will-
it helps. I mean,
Excuse me?
I said, I hope it helps.
I thought they were great. I thought you and Nancy did a great job.
Yeah, I think it's
Well,
good.
Yeah.
actually, it was Ann who did the job.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Ann?
it's all good.
All good.
But thank you, David.
Hopefully you can,
Thank you,
if
David
there's a
and
way we
Roxanne
can
for
make
coming up
it
with
easily
this. That was
go on the
great.
website.
So you'll,
So
Roxanne,
people
you'll
can
integrate
reference
the
it,
forms.
you know.
Okay.
And I will
know.
send it to you and to Dave.
Yeah, okay.
Have you seen it at all? Have you seen
Yes.
anything?
Good.
So we pretty much met our obligations. in
Well,
terms of new ordinances.
I mean, the important thing was to get a form to him as soon as we can. And, you know, I'm
Yeah,
not
right,
going
I think it's
to, I
great.
don't want to go.
Have you seen Ann's list? Did
Yes,
you-
I have.
Okay.
Yes, I've reviewed it.
Do you think this will do?
Oh, yes.
I mean, it's a start. Jim, I'm sure I neglected things or
Hey,
push the envelope.
nothing can be perfect,
No.
so we just,
Perfect is the enemy of the good in this case.
exactly.
Okay. Anything else under Title 37? Because we probably, at the next meeting, we should try and actually record a listing of these lists. So it'd be good if you can all have a
You know,
look
I was
at it.
thinking like the guy that was just here,
Yeah.
if we had something like this to give him and say, this is the formula you need to use to,
Yeah.
something more,
Okay.
more clear and more.
Yeah.
Maybe an action item list,
Yeah,
you know.
once we get a
That's good
handle
idea.
on what Title 37 is saying now, I think you're right. We probably need to do that type of checklist. Okay, if there's nothing else under Title 37, you don't have anything more for us? Are you going to have anything more at the next meeting, apart from the Marietta?
Possibly, yes. Yeah. There's 2 more phases of the WODA development on 682 that should be coming through. That'll be the next big development that you would see. So that's across from University Estates.
Maintenance of tree canopy. I've consolidated the list that Nancy, Jim, and I had into one document, and I'll try and circulate that out before the next meeting so people can see again where we're finding sites for potential plantings down the road. Then the other item, which is almost maintenance of the tree canopy, we've got Aspland, and I wanted to get this into the agenda so that the public could see this before our meeting. There's a whole series of streets, mainly on the south side, where Aspland are to be working. That's this item there.
Do we know the timeline for that? I live in that neighborhood and I haven't seen anything yet.
No, I was. The city did make an announcement in its listings, and I can't remember if there was a date associated with that.
Okay,
But
I'll
it's
check.
at least a month ago.
Yeah.
Because I had this before I went on vacation and put it into the agenda, and that's why it appeared so early.
They just must go from one section to another, to another, to another. If they were in our area
Oh,
year
okay.
before last. I
Yeah.
think.
Is there anything else that we should?
I have a
Yes.
couple things, a couple
Anne.
announcements. October 21st, we, Ed Brown and the other OSU Extension agents from around here, we're hosting another tree survival school over in Belpre at the Riverfront Park there. So it'll be a day-long outdoor activity where we've got, demos on site prep, tree planting, mulching, pruning, and we're going to have Mike Wren to do some bird watching too, because a big part of that park has been trying to establish some rare bird population. The next week, October 27th, ODNR is hosting a tree pruning workshop remotely. So you guys are going to get email invites from me on these in the next few days. So it'll be a little bit of some email blasts from me. That you do need to register for that, but it is free.
And
The trees-
will it be recorded so that we can look at it? Because quite often they do them during the day, and I can't.
Yeah, and it is during the day. It's 9 to 12. I will look into that.
Because they did a nice job on one about a year ago.
Yeah,
when they recorded
you know
all
what, that was an act of Congress to get that thing recorded and then out on YouTube. So if you remember, we did get them,
Yes.
but it took a while.
Yeah.
I don't know that, I will try to find out on that. But as a part of that online tutorial, and this would be something for Kevin and his guys, also the street crews, they have to deal with trees that are, growing in front of stop signs and things like that. So this will be exactly for them to give them the right tools to do that properly.
Is this something that a certified arborist could use to get continuing credits?
Yes, CEUs will be available for both of these events. But what I'm getting at on the 27th is we will then go out and meet in the different towns and do some pruning. And the one that'll be closest to you guys will be Logan. So we'll be in Logan like in November. And again, it's free, but we'll get to spend a couple days out there, helping them trim up some of their Kentucky coffee trees on the main drag.
Do
that I
you think
recommend.
we can get them in Athens one day?
You could. Do you have a
We have
popul-
an awful lot of trees that could do with
Yeah.
lifting.
Well, yeah, we could do that. Let's, can you call me next week? And, because we want to have something, you know, so we could discuss some specific
Yes, okay.
sites.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a possibility. And then finally, so please watch your email for invitations to those two events. Finally, the big news is we've been awarded $250,000 from the U.S. Forest Service to help communities restore their community forests. So we are going to be giving grants. I believe it's going to be $2K to $25K. They're always 50-50 reimbursement, like your typical federal grants. We are meeting to review the criteria and the application documents on Tuesday. So I would say probably in the next week or two, you're going to get, and it'll be an email from me that comes from my supervisor. But be thinking about it. It'll be a quick turnaround time. So
it'll be money spent in this fiscal year then?
most likely, again, it'd be reimbursement. Yeah, so council.
Yeah, but the thing is, you see, we've got to line up money here
Yeah.
that we're going to spend on trees that we can try and use to match.
It'd probably be best to plan it for the next year, actually,
And I
so that you could budget.
Well, if
but-
we can do that, that's why I was asking whether this
Yeah.
is money that's going to have to be spent in this fiscal year.
No, you'll have time.
Okay.
Usually they give you 2 years to
Okay.
do it. Now, we don't like to do that.
Yeah.
But sometimes with weather and stuff.
But the state's fiscal year, I think, is the same as the city's, isn't it? From what I remember.
So this is gonna be federal money, so their fiscal
so
year
this is money they got from the
pass
federal
through.
government.
This is from the U.S. Forest Service,
Okay,
yeah.
so you're passing that through. Okay.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah, we can work with that one, I think. Yeah.
Are we allowed to use the grant for planting the trees, money to plant the trees, since we already have access to free trees?
You gotta give me that one.
Yes, because, it's all in how you propose it. So, because you might be
Good.
able to do double the trees,
Right.
or
And
yeah.
would the trees count as match?
Oh, man, I hate when people ask
Well,
hard
no,
questions.
we're just going to have to look at the details
Yeah.
of the proposal.
Yeah.
But that's something that we would
But
consider.
certainly that would make it easier for us if we can use.
Yeah.
The trees
own
is
is
matched, because
matching.
you have that, well, we'll look at that.
And
I
then-
mean, we're usually pretty flexible on our matches, you know, it's a
Okay.
lot of in-kind and.
And then at some point, somebody's gonna have to explain to me what a community forest is, because I don't know.
Urban forest.
Or urban forest.
Trees planted in public spaces within a city limit.
Okay, but does it have to be a forest? Is it like
No,
you have to have a
no,
density?
no,
Oh,
it's just
okay.
trees planted within the
Sorry.
city limit.
Yeah.
Just
It's ignorance.
No, it's a good question.
That's
That's
what
it.
they call our trees, the urban forest.
Okay.
So I'm glad that you guys are interested in that. You know, these are few and far between. I think the last time that we had a grant for your, that you guys were eligible for was more than a decade ago.
I want
And
to
you know,
talk to
it
David
just,
about
the more
one of those
articles I
things, because
read, the
found
clearer
those.
it becomes
Let me show you.
that there's a great interest in planting trees, and a lot of money is spent, but not in maintaining them, and even going back and seeing how many survived.
Yeah. Oh, Lee, you hit the nail on the head. You can't imagine the debates that we have had within ODNR about this money, because what a lot of us really wanted to give you guys resources to cage the trees that you have, to protect them from deer, to do young tree pruning, so that when they're gigantic, they're not, hitting street signs and buildings. But yeah, we did, it was a congressional pass-through monies from Marcy Captor, and they sustained so much tree loss from the emerald ash borer that it really heightened her awareness about restoring tree canopy, and that's why it's a simple grant. So, in a way, that use the money to plant, but that frees up resources to do other things, like watering them and pruning them and.
Sounds good.
We should be able to use it.
Protecting
I have
mature trees.
one other
Yep.
question. Dave, we, for the last two meetings, have requested a meeting with legal to talk about whether or not we have the right to sell trees from Menards as part of a tree sale. I'd really like to have that meeting.
Yes, okay, I will, Lisa's been out of the office, I think she's back in tomorrow, so I can get a hold of her and see what her availability is.
Thank you.
It's kind of a novel idea. Yeah.
They might say no, but until we ask.
Okay, is there anything else before we review the minutes of the last meeting?
I have one other question,
Yes, certainly.
and we can maybe discuss this at the next meeting or some other time when we have more time. We talked at length about planning and setting up some way of surveying or knowing what the various areas of the city were in need of in terms of trees. And it feels like that's not even, like, how did Carroll Avenue get us trees? How did trees wind up being planted at the State Street Park? I mean, who decides those things?
Carroll Road was a priority of the mayor.
What?
The mayor.
It was the mayor who declared that priority.
But
And also West State Street, actually
I
both.
suppose he could do that even if we had a plan, but maybe we had a plan of our own. It wouldn't be as simple for people else to just jump up and say, let's put some trees here.
Well, Nancy, this is your chance with that grant opportunity. You know, if there's something that you've noticed, place that where we can make a statement to
I did a
approve
survey of my area of
Yeah,
town.
and I've got those now altogether. So those are potential planting sites, but the plan is more than just the sites. We've got to deal with the maintenance part of it,
True.
and
We get to figure out a process too for communicating it and for selling it, or we're getting it accepted as a
well,
how we do business.
but the very first thing is for us to complete the plan, and it is just pieces at the moment.
I can tell you that the mayor does have one other priority area, and you know this, it's by the river.
which,
By
you
the
mean
hot restoring, removing invasives and then restoring natives.
okay, on the Hocking Conservancy land.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but that's a long-term project because they haven't started removing the invasives yet.
I thought we were constrained by the Army Corps of Engineers not to plant.
No. The area that we're talking about there is not in the floodway. It's in the floodplain.
And the Army Corps actually has really come around.
Oh, really?
They're
And that
yes.
project-
Trees are a powerful engineering tool.
Yes.
No
That
kidding.
project involved the Shade Tree Commission. I mean, I was a member of it, and Ann was there, there were probably other people too, I forget, but, so it wasn't just somebody picking it out as a favorite spot.
I just wanted to be clear that I had heard Steve mention that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I still think, since you brought that up, Roxanne, for the record, it's not about planting trees there. It's about developing a plan around the city to manage land. And, Kevin and I had talked about this. You almost need a person that's their job because, managing invasives is huge. And,
I agree with you, and I suggested if they can't afford a full-time person, then maybe they could hire a graduate student from the university, because they're capable of creating plans.
yeah. Well, we have the plan because ODNR Service Forester Cameron Bashong actually did a long-term plan for that site, and it could be applied to the slopes, where the steps are between the neighborhoods at Grosvenor and Franklin, and all the other places where we have kind of cool, canopy, but it's a lot of invasives. It needs to be somebody that would be here for a long time, and that they're allowed to, and they'd have to be a certified pesticide applicator. It may be a way to grow a position to be, a city forester position maybe down the road. Because that's a big job.
No, I agree.
That's why the planning for this is immense. I mean, that's, yeah, trying to wrap your mind around to getting it all done is more than I can do at the moment. All we can do is put pieces together at the moment with this. Okay. Can we have a look at the minutes of the meeting from July 8th? Are there any corrections or questions that people have about these minutes?
They were fine. I had no corrections.
Good. I'd like a motion to approve them.
Motion.
Thank you, Roxanne.
Second.
Thank you, Jim. Is there any further discussion on the minutes of the last meeting? Any more questions about them? If not, are there any objections to approving the minutes? Hearing none, we have minutes of our last meeting. I will get those to the city for posting on their website. Our next meeting is September 9th, unless we need to meet sooner than that for the benefit of the Marietta Memorial Hospital site. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you. Can I borrow your